fact, when they did fund us, they realized that we were illegal immigrants.
Well, I mean,
yes, we were.
I'd say it was a gray area.
Yeah, yes, we were. We were illegal immigrants. We were sleeping in the office.
Okay, friends, this is technically part 5 of our Meet the Musk series, but this is part 1 of our deep dive into specifically Elon, Kimbal, and Tosca Musk. If you have not watched parts 1 through 4 yet, go back and watch those 4 parts first before watching this series, because there's information in that first part of the series that is going to tie into all of the information that we're going to talk about in this series. And let me give you guys a full warning here. I have accumulated 36 pages of notes in my research into Elon, Kimbal, and Tosca. Yes, it's extensive, but it is very interesting, and I think you guys are going to be shocked at where some of these connections take us. So get comfortable, let's talk about it. I have been working on a deep dive specifically into Elon alone ever since he did that jump at the Trump rally, and I realized just how comfortable Elon was, and I decided that I needed to begin stacking my arsenal to hopefully make Elon's life more uncomfortable. One thing that Elon Musk has heavily relied upon throughout his rise in the tech world and the celebrity world, the business world, and now the political world is the hope that we are too stupid to do our research. He has been banking on the false belief that we the people are not intelligent enough to dig up the factual and highly controversial information surrounding him that would make anyone with a moral compass turn their back on him. The Musk family has relied on this element of mysteriousness surrounding them to be able to get as far as they have without really being questioned or pressed by the public. But there's really nothing mystical or mysterious about the Musk family, and when you take the mystery out of the Musks, you're left with the cold hard and somewhat frightening truth of who these people actually are and what they are trying to accomplish. So in parts 1 through 4, we talked about the upbringing of the Musk children and how they grew up in one of the largest houses in Apartheid, South Africa, and made much of their wealth benefiting from legalized oppression. When I say the Musk kids grew up wanting for nothing, they literally wanted for nothing. They had luxury vehicles. Their father would drive them to school in his Rolls Royce. They had the best education that money could buy. They even had access to a private plane. They had everything any child could want for. But even with all of that, Elon specifically looks back at his childhood as traumatic and a terrible time. And that revelation really does not surprise me too much, especially when we look back at the behavioral patterns of Elon Musk, his father, who was primarily raising him throughout his adolescence. Errol had a short, fiery temper. He looked at women as very disposable. He was violent with Elon's mother, Mae Musk. Overall, he prioritized the act of hoarding money, and that was the most important thing in Errol Musk's life. I don't question the fact that Errol Musk was probably not the best parent to grow up around. And while whatever kind of childhood Elon Musk had does not give any kind of an excuse for his behavior as an adult, especially being someone who has access to resources to get all the kinds of help that he could need to recover and heal from what was or was not a traumatic childhood. But one thing that we have to learn and clock, which we are going to clock multiple times in this deep dive, is that Elon Musk has a pattern of embellishing trauma, his own trauma, to attempt to pull sympathy from the masses. For example, Elon has been called out by South African historians and journalists after a biography was written about him, in which Elon talks about what it was like growing up in apartheid South Africa and how he was so traumatized by the apartheid. But many historians and journalists in South Africa are calling him out for very inaccurate and implausible scenarios that he has allegedly witnessed growing up. In his biography, Elon Musk recounted a time in his teens when him and Kimbal traveled to Johannesburg, South Africa to attend an anti-apartheid music festival. Keep in mind, this was in the 80s, if Elon Musk was a teenager at the time when he is recounting this story. And he describes going on a train to Johannesburg. Keep in mind, Johannesburg was a very wealthy area, like Pretoria, of the apartheid. That was highly segregated. Elon recounted that when he got off the train with Kimbal in Johannesburg, he and his brother had to wade through a pool of red human bodily fluid. Gotta watch my words. And they would see a man who had been attacked by the violent gangs in Johannesburg and had a weapon sticking out of his brain. And he and his brother just waded through this pool of human bodily fluid and went on to their anti-apartheid music festival. A South African historian specifically checked Elon Musk on this claim, stating that it was either grossly over-exaggerated or just did not happen, citing the non-existence of anti-apartheid festivals or activities, especially in places like Johannesburg, South Africa in the 80s. Keeping in mind, the apartheid in South Africa did not fall until 1994. Perhaps he just got the town he was going to wrong, who knows? But that was not the only thing that he had been called out by South African journalists and historians for embellishing. Elon has described in his biographies that growing up in having to travel on the train in South Africa was very scary for him and his siblings, but Elon had a very fearless attitude towards the constant gang violence that they would witness on the trains. According to South African journalists, pretty much everywhere in South Africa, trains were fully segregated until after Elon Musk had left for Canada, and the people who were traveling in trains from Johannesburg to other wealthy areas of the apartheid was generally a safe experience. So I could get more into other things that Elon has been called out by journalists and historians for misrepresenting about his childhood growing up in apartheid South Africa, but that's just kind of like a taste of things that didn't line up. All in all, and we'll get more into this, but just kind of keep this in the back of your mind, when Elon Musk opens up and shares factual or inaccurate trauma that happened to him, it is an attempt to play on the natural sympathy that human beings have within themselves. He's attempting to be relatable. Let's get more into like the concrete information. So we know for a fact Elon Musk always had the best education that money could buy. He started school at the Waterkloof House Prep School. Then he was enrolled into Bryanston High School before he was finally enrolled in private school, the Pretoria Boys High School, where he would ultimately graduate from. Unlike popular belief, he did not get straight A's in school by any means, has presented himself to the world as a one-of-a-kind genius in the academic and tech world.
At this point, I think I know more about manufacturing than anyone currently alive on Earth.
Tweet that.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why Elon Musk says that his childhood was so traumatic is because he claims he was the victim of merciless bullying by his peers. Elon has described in multiple interviews a specific incident in school where he was allegedly jumped and beaten in a stairway within an inch of his life so badly he had to spend time in the hospital, and when he got out he explained that his trauma was only compounded when he was berated by his father for an hour after returning from the hospital. Elon explained that he was bullied by his peers because he had a lot of big ideas, but he was the youngest in his class, he was the smallest in the class, and was just picked on. Mae Musk, Elon's mother, has also echoed the same reasons for her son being bullied, because he was the smartest, the smallest, the youngest. He was just probably about a year younger than everyone. But when Elon Musk was questioned about this situation, after Elon had publicly shared that after getting out of the hospital, being beat within an inch of his life, his father sat and screamed at him for an hour, Elon Musk wanted to defend himself. Before we get into Elon's justification for yelling at Elon after he was released from the hospital, let me just say, we know that Elon Musk is not a good dude, right? Everything this guy says we should take with a grain of salt, just like the rest of the Musk family. I do think what he said to justify berating Elon after he was released from the hospital is somewhat enlightening if it is true. Errol explained that the reason that Elon's classmates did not like him had nothing to do with him being the youngest or the smallest, but it had everything to do with how Elon treated his classmates. Errol described his son as a boy who felt like he was always the smartest person who walked into a room. And according to Errol, Elon was not afraid to let people know that he believed he was smarter than them. Errol explained that he was fully justified in berating his son after he was released from the hospital because Elon was beat up for being disrespectful to another student who had just returned to school after mourning the loss of his father, who had passed away from self-inflicted means. The student returned, and Elon went after him and called him stupid. According to Errol, when he found out the reason behind his son being beat up, it didn't surprise him because Elon had a history of calling people stupid. We will probably never know the entire story or all the details of what occurred in that school stairwell, if Elon was the one being bullied or if he was the bully who was getting retaliated upon. But one thing that we do know for a fact is that in present day, as an adult, Elon Musk is absolutely, definitively a bully. Regardless if he faced bullying in school, that does not give him any excuse to become a bully in adulthood. But it would make a lot of sense if he has just been a bully his whole life and that's just normal to him. Anyway, moving on. So after Elon and Kimbal graduated from high school, they had no desire to be drafted into the military. I can't blame them. I would not want to be a part of a apartheid regime either. After graduating, Kimbal and Elon decided to move to their mother's country of origin, Canada, after they were granted passports. Now, this is where things are really going to start getting interesting. Now, the Musk brothers have immigrated out of South Africa and they have moved to Canada, soon to be the United States. It's just where things start to get real spooky, okay? At age 19, Elon Musk would begin attending Queen's University in Ontario, where he would study for about 2 years before being granted a student visa to be able to go to school in the United States. In 1992, Elon Musk began attending the University of Pennsylvania. Elon has told the world on multiple occasions that he graduated with his degrees in economics and physics in 1995, but the University of Pennsylvania does not have any kind of record of giving Elon Musk a degree until 1997. Just a little discrepancy. A discrepancy that really doesn't matter, but because of the political ideology that Elon has aligned himself with, it becomes a little bit relevant. So follow me here. Elon Musk came from Canada to the United States on a student visa to be able to attend the University of Pennsylvania to get his degree. And the University of Pennsylvania, like we just talked about, has no record of giving Elon Musk a degree until 1997. But that was okay because Elon had applied and been accepted to Stanford University's graduate program. But the issue lies in the fact that Elon Musk never enrolled in Stanford University, thus making his student visa of no use if he was not attending school or going to college. Before making the decision not to enroll into Stanford, he and his brother Kimbal Musk began taking on some internships in Silicon Valley in the up-and-coming tech world. Kimbal Musk has publicly admitted that during the time that he and Elon were working these internships in Silicon Valley, he and Elon were 100% undocumented workers in the United States.
In fact, when they did fund us, they realized that we were illegal immigrants.
Well, I mean,
Yes, we were.
I'd say it's a gray area.
Yeah, yes, we were. We were illegal immigrants. We were sleeping in the office.
Kimbal would state years before Elon was involved in politics that they were undocumented immigrants working in Silicon Valley. And I personally do not think that anyone would have actually cared about this blip in Elon Musk's story if he would have not aligned himself with the political party who regularly spew so much hatred towards immigrants and echo horrible phrases such as America is for Americans and Americans only.
America is for Americans and Americans only.
They don't want to talk about how this illegal immigration crisis is a theft of the American dream from American citizens.
Like, the hypocrisy makes us look at it. You know what I mean? Anyway, moving on. While Elon and Kimbal were immersed in their tech internships is when they would have the idea to start their first business. So around 1995, Elon Musk, Kimbal Musk, and another man named Greg Corey would all go into business together and start a company called Zip2. Zip2 was kind of like the early stages of like what a MapQuest would have been years later. The zygote of Google Maps, if you will. I can't believe I found this. This is what Zip2 used to look like. It was basically an internet city guide that also had access via the internet to the yellow pages. After the three successfully built Zip2, within a year of its creation, Zip2 was sold to a company called Compaq for a total of $300 million. Elon received a $22 million cash payout from this sale and 7% stake in the company of Zip2. Kimbal was paid out a total of $15 million. So before even the year 2000, Kimbal and Elon were both millionaires in their own regard. But something that Elon would like us to forget whenever he calls himself a self-made billionaire is the fact that his first company that made him his first $1 million was given a little bit of a boost by Elon Musk. See, Elon Musk invested $30,000 of his own money for his sons to launch Zip2. And like, there's a lot of companies that, you know, start from nothing and become very successful, and investors are what helps that company get off the ground. But the way that Elon has framed it makes it seem like he did all the heavy lifting himself and came into the United States with absolutely nothing and created this massively successful company all on his own. Like, would anyone have really cared if Elon Musk gave his son $30,000 to start a business? No. It's just the intentional reframing of the situation to try to make himself look like something he's not. With the millions of dollars that Elon and Kimbal had made off of selling Zip2, Elon decided to stay in Silicon Valley to keep building his future in the tech industry. This is when Elon and other figures who we will introduce in a moment would create the precursor to PayPal, X.com. After selling Zip2, Kimbal Musk did not have as many aspirations in the tech industry right off the bat like Elon did. And instead of working with Elon to get X.com, the precursor to PayPal, off the ground, he would move from Silicon Valley to New York to attend culinary school. We'll talk more about Kimbal's life shortly, but Kimbal did eventually get back into the tech world, becoming an owner of one of the largest drone companies in the United States. But Elon and Kimbal took very distinctively different paths after selling Zip2, and I kind of believe it's because of the way that Kimbal and Elon describe their working relationship to be when they were building Zip2. When I was reading about Kimbal and Elon's recollection of what it was like getting Zip2 off the ground, I was literally floored. My jaw was on the ground. I was like, what am I reading? And I had to like source it so many times to make sure it was factual. In this moment, we are going to listen and we are going to judge. So one of the reasons why Kimbal decided to kind of break off from the path that Elon was going down with becoming a part of the rise of the internet was because of how tumultuous their working relationship was while creating Zip2. So it has been reported by staff members who worked in the rented office space where Zip2 was being created, and this information has also been confirmed by Elon and Kimbal themselves. Kimbal and Elon would get so frustrated with one another that they would resort to fist fighting in the office. Staff regularly witnessed violent altercations between Kimbal and Elon. Sometimes they would even be rolling around on the floor in the office fighting, fist fighting, men in their 20s. Fist fighting in the office, surrounded by other staff members. I know they did not have an HR department. I know it. One of the most memorable and well-cited fights that Elon and Kimbal got into resulted in Elon having to be rushed to the emergency room to receive stitches and a tetanus shot. A tetanus shot? Why a tetanus shot, Bekah? Because Kimbal Musk got so frustrated with his brother that he took a bite out of his hand while they were fighting. A chunk of flesh out of his hand. And I totally understand. Brothers fight. I totally understand wanting to knock the lights out of Elon Musk. I get it. But I really have a hard time having understanding as to how a 20-something-year-old man had to resort to cannibalizing his brother during office hours because he got angry. Like, can you imagine what their staff was subjected to? If there are any staff members out there who used to work for Zip2 and didn't sign an NDA, this is your time to shine. So, like I said, Kimbal chose a different path. Okay, I guess there was something that really inspired him about taking a bite out of his brother's hand, and he decided to go to culinary school. Kimbal then decided after culinary school to open a restaurant franchise, and he started franchises such as Next Door and The Kitchen, which have been very, very successful. And while in New York City attending culinary school is when Kimbal Musk would meet his first wife, Jen Lewin. Jen Lewin and Kimbal would have 2 children together before they ultimately called it quits and got a divorce. After divorcing Jen, Kimbal would go on to marry a woman named Christina in 2018. And Kimbal also has one other child outside of both of those marriages, but like no information is really known about who that child's mother is. And just like spoiler alert, I'll tell you guys right now, Kimbal's messy, scary lore all occurs before his first wife, okay? His messy, scary lore that we are going to get into, because it also involves Elon, happens before his first wife. So just keep this in the back of your mind. Now, Kimbal has kind of gotten this like pass as being the less controversial brother, the more attractive brother, this, that, and the other. In reality, it really comes down to who is being seen in the spotlight and how they're being seen in the spotlight. And Elon Musk will never be seen well in the spotlight because he thinks every waking thought and opinion is a gift to the world and shares those. And he's always in controversy. So when we look at Kimbal Musk, yeah, it looks like he's a little less controversial, but just hold your judgment. The big controversies that have followed Kimbal Musk outside of the super scary secret lore that we're going to get into in a minute that happened before Jen, his criticisms were mostly centered around workplace discrimination enacted by him onto his employees. So if you've ever heard of the nonprofit company Big Green, that is Kimbal Musk's nonprofit company, and they basically create a program that allows a learning environment for children in school to be able to create gardens. Great idea, terrible, terrible management on Kimbal Musk's part, because in 2021, not very long ago, Kimbal Musk's employees of Big Green went to the proper channels when there was an issue of racism happening within the company that was coming from the top down. These nonprofit employees went to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee at Big Green to report what was happening. They went to the proper channels, they reported how they were supposed to report, and immediately dissolved the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. After the DEI committee was dissolved, the workers at Big Green decided to unionize, and Kimbal Musk fired them. But those workers took it to the courts, and Kimbal was forced to rehire the employees that he wrongfully terminated for simply reporting racism that was happening within the company. And he also faced really horrendous allegations of taking money from his employees' emergency fund that he had created for them, that they were putting a portion of every single one of their paychecks into within his restaurant company for times of emergency. It was called the Family Fund. Kimbal Musk laid off a ton of people in his company and started making drastic pay cuts from the head chef level to the manager level to the employee level. That is when, employees asked if they could access the emergency fund, the family fund that they had been paying into for years and years and years with every one of their paychecks. And instead of giving them access to those funds, Kimbal Musk laid off 100 of his longtime employees and refused to give them any access to the fund that they had been paying into for years during a global pandemic. And while Kimbal Musk has remained very much so in the environmental, restaurant, agricultural industry, he has dabbled back into the tech world, now owning one of the largest drone companies in the United States, Nova Sky Stories. You've probably seen these videos online, or maybe you've even seen one of the drone shows where these drones make pictures in the sky. That would be Kimbal Musk's company. Okay, now you know the information that you need to know about Kimbal. Before we move forward, we are now going to jump back into Elon's PayPal days. We will get into the absolute debauchery that Kimbal and Elon Musk got into with Jeffrey Epstein very shortly. Before getting into the tech bros, I'm going to do my best to just kind of Cliff Notes version this next section of this deep dive, because I fear the synapses in my brain will stop firing if I talk too much about tech bros. 1999, Zip2 gets sold. Elon Musk becomes a millionaire. Kimbal Musk goes and does his thing. Elon stays in Silicon Valley to keep building into the tech world. This is when Elon Musk would create the website X.com, not X, the social media app. And no one in this world is going to convince me that Elon's love of the letter X does not come from his technocratic beliefs, in which it was very common for them to replace their names with numbers and the letter X.
You describe yourself as a technologist.
Yes, exactly.
technologist. Make new technologies, create new technologies.
Is it your dream to conquer the world and make the world a better place? What is your dream?
Technology is like magic, you know. I think technology is the closest thing to magic that we have in the real world. What's the closest thing to being a wizard in the real world? And that's like creating new technologies.
Using the millions of dollars that he made from selling Zip2, he then turned that money into X.com. And X.com, it was just like an online banking website where you could make money transfers via the internet. Within about 2 months of Elon launching X.com, the website had about 200,000 active members. While Elon Musk was the founder of X.com, he did rely very heavily upon investors to get X.com off the ground. But those investors did not think that Elon Musk had the experience to be the CEO of such a quickly growing banking website at his age with his lack of experience. This is when the investors would get together and oust Elon as the CEO of X.com and replace him with the Intuit software CEO, Bill Harris. Elon was still a board member and still had a great deal of power within X.com, despite not being the CEO. The following year, after Elon was removed as the CEO of X.com, would merge with a similar money transfer website called Confinity. And Confinity was co-founded by Peter Thiel in 1998. After this merger between Confinity and X.com occurred, PayPal was born. After this merger, Elon was named the CEO of PayPal, but that did not last long as issues between founders, investors, and employees all began to arise, primarily centered around Elon. Elon and Peter Thiel had such a tumultuous working relationship that it caused PayPal board members to oust Elon Musk as CEO, and they replaced him with Peter Thiel. Elon was still a founder working within PayPal, but he was not the CEO anymore. 2 years after Peter Thiel became the CEO of PayPal, PayPal would be sold to eBay and it would become eBay's primary transaction tool. So now I'm not going to get into the entirety of the PayPal Mafia because we are going to be here all day if we did that. But I do want to talk about a few members of the PayPal Mafia and where you can find them today and why it's relevant. Since we're already talking about him, let's start with Peter Thiel. So Peter Thiel was born in Germany in 1967 and was the son of a chemical engineer. When Peter Thiel was a little boy, his family would immigrate from Germany to apartheid South Africa. What is going on? Apartheid South Africa is where Peter Thiel would spend a large deal of his childhood. Peter Thiel's father, a German chemical engineer, ran uranium mining operations for the apartheid regime in South Africa. I think I've seen this movie before. Illegal mining operations, benefiting from apartheid. And these illegal mining operations would take place for years and just be completely devastating to the indigenous people of South Africa. And the whole reason that the apartheid regime was forcing these indigenous people to mine for uranium was so that they could collect it and create nuclear weapons with it. As an adult, after growing up in apartheid South Africa on the side of the oppression, Peter now describes his feelings towards apartheid as a good and valuable system that creates strong economies. I won't bore you with all the details of Peter Thiel's childhood because who fucking cares, right? I'm really just trying to wake up your guys' pattern recognition right now, okay? Just trying to wake it up. Peter Thiel also owns multiple other companies and hedge funds. And Peter Thiel is also an author, and he wrote a very interesting book back in 1995 alongside another tech bro named David Sacks. This book, written by Peter Thiel and David Sacks, is the definition of an accidental expose if I've ever seen one, and it literally reveals the inner workings of the mind of a Silicon Valley tech bro. This book that was written by David Sacks and Peter Thiel, and I'll get more into David Sacks here in just a second. I'm sure you've heard the name before. We'll talk more about it. We're gonna wake our pattern recognition up even more. But this book quite literally argues against affirmative action in the United States. That's the point of the book. And for anyone who is not aware of what affirmative action is, it is like this thin blanket of protection that the United States has granted to Americans so that they are not allowed to be discriminated against in school or in their workplace for whatever race they are, however they identify, whatever their disabilities are. It's really just diversity, equality, and inclusion. Like that, it's really like not controversial. And keep in mind, we have seen Elon Musk publicly talk about how he does not agree with diversity, equity, and inclusion. Kimbal Musk closed down the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee when problems arose that he was going to have to deal with. Silicon Valley tech bros see affirmative action and DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, as an attack on them for whatever reason. There's a reason, but they can't say it out loud. You have to read between the lines with these people. Peter Thiel's hate for diversity, equity, inclusion is so ironic because Peter Thiel is an openly gay man. He is openly part of the LGBTQ community.
Okay, I'm very quickly interrupting myself with a voiceover so that I can just be a tiny bit messy. Can I just point out the irony in the fact that not only is Peter Thiel an openly gay man, he is also a father. And what party that he's attached to, associated with, wants to take away the right of gay couples from being able to adopt children? You know, that same party that has been screaming at us to practice conservative family values. All the while, Peter Thiel, who is married to his partner, was in a long-term relationship, cheating on his partner with a social media influencer who is 22 years younger than him. And not only to mention that, it has also been well reported that at a New Year's Eve party at Peter Thiel's home, there was a confrontation between Peter Thiel's husband and Peter Thiel's boyfriend at said New Year's Eve party. And the outcome of that was the influencer, the much younger influencer who was dating Peter Thiel, ultimately ended up taking his own life. Peter Thiel is literally a menace within his own community.
If he was not privileged the way that he is, diversity, equity, and inclusion would matter a lot to him. Peter Thiel is also one of the largest donors to the Republican campaign political party as a whole. Like, that man has deep pockets for conservatives, and it's really strange because Peter Thiel, have you heard other talking about y'all? I want to talk more about this book, but let me introduce you to David Sacks if you are not familiar with who he is. So David Sacks went to school with Peter Thiel at Stanford University. That's how they got connected, and that's how they became, you know, book buddies. And you've probably heard David Sacks in the news recently because he's part of the incoming president's new cabinet. He's assuming the position of White House AI and crypto czar. Literally don't have a clue what that job entails. Here is where we're gonna wake up our pattern recognition again. Anyone tell me where David Sacks was born? Take a wild guess. Just a wild guess? Yeah. Apartheid, South Africa. Just like Elon Musk, just like Peter Thiel, David Sacks was also beneficiary of apartheid. What is going on? All of like these apartheid oppressor babies have grown up and are now trying to run the United States. What is going on? Do you guys all have the same brainworm? What is going on? Anyway, back to the book. So Peter and David basically argue in this book that implementing affirmative action in 1961 was a harm to the United States as a whole. They basically make the argument that Stanford University would be a much more prestigious university if they did not implement affirmative action, and that if universities would stop prioritizing meeting their DEI quota, that we would be much further as a society. Let me translate that for you from the tech bro language, right? They are simply saying, we do not want to see people of different orientations, of different identities, of different races in the same spaces as us. We don't want them to have equal opportunity. That is all that they are trying to say. You can put thousands of words on a piece of paper. It doesn't matter. That's exactly what they're trying to say. They're just trying to go about it in a very roundabout way to try to make you feel inferior for not understanding the way they think. Let me just read you a short excerpt from this book so you can kind of get a feel of where Peter and David were coming from. A Stanford without affirmative action will be a Stanford in which the question of who belongs here will no longer need to be answered. It will no longer need to be answered because it will no longer needed to be asked. In this book, Peter Thiel and David Sacks also throw around a very, very false and dangerous theory that the real number of SA and R words that happen on college campuses are massively conflated, and they quite literally chalk up the high rates of SA and R word on college campuses to confused and intoxicated women. I am personally shocked that David Sacks and Peter Thiel have not tried to destroy every copy of this book in existence, but at the same time, if they believed that their ideology surrounding diversity, equity, inclusion, and predatory behavior was controversial, they would have, and they have not. So that says something. Probably because of his highly controversial ideology, his money, all of those things made him very palatable for Donald Trump. And in 2016, Peter Thiel donated over $1 million to Donald Trump's campaign. And Peter Thiel was also on the executive committee of Donald Trump's transition team in his first term. Just a couple other things about Peter Thiel, and then we will get back into how all this ties into Elon Musk. Peter Thiel was also one of the largest Republican donors to Republican congressional candidates, donating well over $20 million to boost Republican candidates into a Senate position. One of those Republican candidates was J.D. Vance, who was in that election named the Senator of Ohio, and then just 2 years later named the incoming Vice President of the United States. So when people say that Peter Thiel is J.D. Vance's daddy, that's why. Peter Thiel is also a major investor of AI, OpenAI, all of those things as well. In a nutshell, that's what you need to know about David Sacks and Peter Thiel for now. And I'm filming this the next day because my 2-year-old woke up last night and wanted to be held by me, and you know what? Duty calls. Okay, so reverting back to our timeline, I'm not going to get into every single individual who is in the PayPal Mafia. We'll be here all day. A lot of the figures ultimately branched off to create websites that we know and are very familiar with today: Reddit, YouTube, Yelp, LinkedIn, and Change.org all were birthed out of this group of tech guys from Silicon Valley known as the PayPal Mafia. I did want to kind of like prioritize and bring David Sacks and Peter Thiel to the forefront, as they are, going to be working within the White House with the incoming administration, and it feels very relevant. Okay, now I'm going to go through some of Elon Musk's business ventures after PayPal was sold to eBay. And while I think the controversy within Elon Musk's personal life is much more telling of who he is as a person, but I think the means and the routes that Elon took to get his companies like Tesla and SpaceX off the ground are very much of interest to us. In 2001, Elon Musk became very involved in a nonprofit organization called Mars Society. And this organization basically sought out to colonize Mars and implement a sophisticated technocracy within Mars for future settlers of Mars to be able to adhere and abide by. The same year that Elon Musk became very involved in this nonprofit organization that had aspirations to colonize space, specifically Mars, he, alongside Michael D. Griffin, future at the time, but former now administrator of NASA, traveled to Moscow, Russia in hopes to buy refurbished intercontinental ballistic missiles that they could use to carry resources from Earth to Mars so that they could begin creating a inhabitable society on Mars. No purchase was made during this trip to Moscow, Russia in 2001, but Elon and Michael D. Griffin would return to Moscow, Russia in 2002, hoping to buy 3 rockets from Russia. The Russian government did not want to give Elon 3 rockets, so they were like, no, you can have 1 rocket for $8 million, but that's all we're gonna do for you. Elon didn't feel like paying $8 million for 1 rocket, so then and there, Elon made the decision that he was going to start his own company where he could build cheaper rockets than what Russia was going to offer him to be able to accomplish his colonization of Mars. And thus, SpaceX was born in 2002. Elon immediately appointed himself the CEO and chief engineer of SpaceX, and by 2006, SpaceX was doing their very first rocket launch, which was ultimately not successful as the rocket failed to exit Earth's orbit, but NASA still praised SpaceX for this accomplishment. Keep it in mind, NASA at this time was being ran by Michael D. Griffin, the friend of Elon Musk, who traveled to Moscow, Russia with him to acquire refurbished intercontinental ballistic missiles. In the following years, SpaceX would continue to experience a lot of different launch issues, launch failures, to the point that SpaceX nearly went bankrupt. But thanks to Elon's pal and buddy up at NASA, Michael D. Griffin, who was the director of NASA at the time, no bankruptcy would occur because Michael D. Griffin granted Elon Musk's company a $1.6 billion government contract to continue operating. Since that point, SpaceX has gone on to have a lot more successful launches, and SpaceX has attracted a lot of very, very high-profile investors. And that $1.6 billion government contract that Elon received in the mid-2000s would be the very beginning for the billions and billions and billions of dollars of government contracts that would go into SpaceX in the coming years. Out of SpaceX, Starlink would be born, and you've probably seen Starlink, the line of satellites in the sky every once in a while. Starlink is just virtually satellite internet connection. Starlink, especially in like more present day, has received a lot of criticism for many different reasons, one of them being because Elon very boldly displayed his allegiance to Russia through Starlink. So let me explain this. And just keep it in mind, Elon's original prospects to work with and do business with when it came to space colonization was Russia. And one of the best examples of the failures of technocracy would be like the Soviet Union or the Russian government. So it makes sense to me why Elon might choose to link arms with Russia during this venture to create a technocracy in Mars. Like many of us saw in 2022, Elon Musk got a really big pat on the back from the public when he offered Starlink to Ukraine after Russia had cut connection to the internet during their conflict. Many people believe that this was just Elon Musk, a billionaire, doing something out of the kindness of his own heart. But in 2023, after Elon Musk caught word that Ukraine was planning a mission to gain back land that Russia had taken in their invasion, he cut their access to Starlink so that they could not carry out said mission to gain their land back. Coddling Russia and not allowing Ukraine to fight back should be very eye-opening to everyone. Okay. This is where Tesla comes in. So let's talk about what really happened. How did Tesla come to be? So right off the bat, let's make something very clear. Elon Musk did not create Tesla Motors. Elon Musk did not formulate the science behind the electric vehicle. Elon had nothing to do with the patents that were created from inventors and scientists like Nikola Tesla. Elon Musk is nothing more than a glorified investor who virtually became like the face of the company. Tesla Motors was co-founded by American entrepreneurs Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning. Those were the OGs of Tesla. These American entrepreneurs had their ideas, they created prototypes, and they successfully created their first electric vehicle, the Tesla Roadster, and they were ready to take their innovative electric vehicle company to market. Now listen to this closely. They sought funding from a venture capitalist to get Tesla Motors off the ground, and that is where Elon Musk came into the picture. Within about a year of Elon attaching himself to Tesla Motors, he had invested about $15 million of his own money, and in 2004, he was placed on the board of directors of Tesla Motors. But this would turn out to be the match made in hell. Martin, who was the CEO of Tesla Motors at the time that Tesla was brought to market, and Elon Musk began to get into a lot of different disputes. They did not work well together. And really where the issues began came from Elon Musk and him wanting to have more power within Tesla Motors. Elon, one of Tesla's main investors who sat in a very powerful position on the board of Tesla, made the executive decision to oust Martin as the CEO of Tesla, the company that he had created. And after ousting Martin from his CEO position, Elon Musk stepped into the position of CEO of Tesla. This dispute became so heated between Elon and the OGs of Tesla. Things went to court and a very public court dispute back and forth began. What it really came down to is Martin and some of the other OGs within Tesla Motors felt as though Elon was attempting to rewrite history as far as his involvement in the founding of Tesla. See, Elon wanted to not just be an investor at Tesla. He wanted to be called a co-founder. And this was not something that the OGs of Tesla agreed to. Thus, Elon Musk pulled a power move and made himself CEO, ousting Martin from said position by assuming the title of CEO and co-founder of Tesla Motors, even though his involvement into this company was solely financially. After going back and forth in court, eventually all parties came to an agreement, and Elon ultimately got to keep his position of CEO at Tesla, and he would also get to assume the title of co-founder of Tesla
as well. And that settlement created open doors for Elon to begin falsely marketing himself as the brains behind this electric car company. Because of this one slimy, self-serving power move that Elon made, he has been touted as a genius by the public for decades, because people have fallen into the propaganda that Elon Musk has created around himself. And that's why today you see so many people calling Elon Musk a genius. He created a fertile environment to make people believe he is this genius who's the brains behind Tesla, when that is just simply not the truth. Okay, are you still with me? Our listening ears on? We have another Russian connection we got to talk about. So in the mid-2000s, Tesla, Elon Musk specifically, was presented with a Global Green Award for environmental leadership for Tesla's creation of the Tesla Roadster, the first electric vehicle that Tesla produced. This environmental award was presented by Mikhail Gorbachev. If you do not recognize that name, congratulations. You probably did not become hyperfixated on the disaster of Chernobyl at one point in your life like me. So Mikhail Gorbachev, he passed away in 2022, but he was the last leader of the Soviet Union, and he was a Russian politician after that. This man, Mikhail Gorbachev, was in charge of the Soviet Union during the disaster of Chernobyl. If anyone ever tells me that cancel culture is real, tell me that's not the most insane rebrand you've ever seen in your life. You're telling me that you mishandled a nuclear situation so terribly and cost so many lives, and now you are an environmental activist? That is the craziest rebrand I have ever heard of in my life. But as we remember, the Soviet Union was an example of like a technocracy, a system that did not put the people first, right? And we saw in Chernobyl, the disaster of Chernobyl, how terribly technocracy fails. And then this fellow went on to the news and said the United States is releasing malicious propaganda about us by simply telling the world that there was a raging nuclear fire happening in the Soviet Union and it was not out. It was still burning. Gorbachev was really embraced by specifically Reagan during his presidency, and those two were credited for ending the Cold conflict, and he was used in like Pizza Hut commercials and like a lot of propaganda around him after that disaster for whatever reason. If you're interested in Chernobyl in general, but you don't want to like get into like hours and hours of research about Chernobyl, go watch the HBO series on Chernobyl. It is a cinematic masterpiece. Not 100% accurate, but a very good series. Anyway, I am not going to sit here and bore you guys with every detail about everything that Tesla has produced, everything that SpaceX has produced, every launch, everything like that. I'm not going to sit here and bore you guys with every detail of that. I know I just went off on an ADHD tangent about Chernobyl, but I promise I'm back on track. Because like there's little pieces of drama that happen within like this time frame of SpaceX and Tesla doing its thing that we will get into. Really at this point, all you need to know is Tesla and SpaceX continue to grow, not only in the US and Canada, but all around the world. We started to see Teslas everywhere. It expanded very rapidly. But during this time, there was a phenomena that was happening. Elon Musk was very quietly creating his wealth, quietly becoming the wealthiest man on the planet. And he, at this time, was successfully maintaining a certain level of mysteriousness that allowed him to kind of do whatever he wanted without the public questioning him. There was really a good amount of time where there was not negative press about Elon Musk. There just were not negative articles written about him. He had the public wrapped around his finger for a very long time, whether we realized it or not. Interrupting myself with a voiceover yet again, just to mention this example of Elon Musk really being able to fly under the radar with bad press. Like there was a lawsuit filed against Elon Musk, Tesla, the whole corporation, by one of the Tesla workers for racial discrimination. His name was Owen Diaz, and one of the parts of this lawsuit that he did win, he won this lawsuit, was him explaining how on the work floors of Tesla, there was a very normal culture to almost segregate the workers, and quite literally the black workers would be placed in a designated area of the work floor, and that area would be referred to as the plantation. And when these workers would come and complain about like the constant slurs and the racism that they were experiencing every day when they went to work, HR would do nothing. And like that to me feels like it should have been printed on every front page everywhere. And that cycle would continue until I believe 2018, when the tides began to shift a little bit and Elon's mask began to slip. But this is the point in the timeline where I'm going to bring in Kimbal Musk again. Just brace yourself, okay? Just brace yourself. We have to talk about his buddy, Jeffrey Epstein. Yes, you heard me right. Jeffrey Epstein, friend and associate of Kimbal Musk. But was it only Kimbal? So right off the bat, it should not shock us too much that Epstein and the Musk family flew in the same circles. You have to remember, many of Jeffrey's friends and associates were involved in the Silicon Valley investment world. In fact, Jeffrey Epstein was actually very close associates with multiple members of the PayPal Mafia, who later went on to become like the tech giants of the world. So let me give you some clarity on what we know about Elon Musk's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, and then we'll get into Kimbal's, because his is absolutely a million times more sinister. So Elon himself has admitted to attending dinners alongside Jeffrey Epstein on multiple occasions, at least 2 different verifiable occasions. They were attending the same dinner or dinner party together, and specifically one of those times was at a dinner party that was hosted by Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, who was part of PayPal Mafia. Elon has also admitted to visiting Jeffrey in his Manhattan home along with his wife at the time, Tallulah Riley. There is a great deal of evidence that points to Elon and Jeffrey working on things together and at least having some kind of a business relationship. We don't know what their relationship was as far as how friendly they were with one another. But according to Elon, Jeffrey felt comfortable enough to invite Elon and his brother to Little St. James on his private jet. There is really no evidence to definitively support that Elon Musk was involved in and engaging in the criminal ring that Jeffrey Epstein was running. But nevertheless, let us be completely clear. In the time when Elon and Kimbal were very comfortable with Jeffrey and going to dinner parties with him, going to lunch dates with him, going to visit him at his home, was after Jeffrey Epstein had been placed on the registry and had already been convicted for a little girl. So even if Elon Musk did not engage in the ring that Jeffrey was running, Elon Musk, a father at the time of fraternizing with the likes of Jeffrey Epstein, was absolutely knowingly and willingly engaging with a man who he knew a little girl. Everyone lost plausible deniability about Jeffrey Epstein after 2008. Every politician, every celebrity, every business owner, everyone lost plausible deniability to know that Jeffrey Epstein was not a good man after 2008. Let me not mince my words when I say that any man, woman, anyone who can look past a crime as egregious as taking the innocence of a child for business purposes is just as dangerous and evil as the person who took the innocence from the child. And Elon has intentionally tried to muddy the waters surrounding the conversation of his relationship with Epstein to create confusion. He's very vague. His answers have changed over the years, but ultimately it can be verified that he had a business partnership with Jeffrey Epstein after he was already on the registry. Every time you hear Elon Musk criticize the black community, the black entertainment industry, black politicians for allowing Diddy to get away with his crimes as long as he did without anyone saying anything, like he famously did on the Joe Rogan podcast and so often likes to do on Twitter, Elon Musk knowingly broke bread with a man who, a little girl, was convicted for it and went to prison for it. And what I'm about to say should go to show you that Kimbal Musk does not deserve the title of the less controversial brother by any means. Do not be deceived by a friendly smile and a cowboy hat. His hat is so large to hide his lies. So from 2011 to 2012, Kimbal Musk dated one of Jeffrey Epstein's ex-girlfriends. I remember following the Jeffrey Epstein case very closely, and as a part of his operation, he would make
American models who were basically owned by him engage in like green card marriages between other models from overseas. They were not in romantic relationships. This was literally just a scheme to appear as if it was a legal pathway to citizenship for Jeffrey to be able to bring them over. Women were virtually strangers to one another. But one of the women in those documented fake marriages that Jeffrey Epstein facilitated dated Kimbal Musk from 2011 to 2012. All the information that we have about this woman who dated Kimbal Musk is fairly limited, but if you're familiar with the court documents in the court case, you'll probably be able to narrow down who it could have been. This woman was one of the women involved in these fake marriages. We know she lived in the apartment complexes in Manhattan owned by Mark Epstein, Jeffrey's brother. We know she was American, and she was also named the beneficiary of an irrevocable trust fund that was set up by Jeffrey Epstein. We also know that at one point she was in a romantic relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Keep in mind, part of Jeffrey's evil scheme that he was running was to virtually make these young girls malleable to use as handlers in the future. So even when they began as victims, there has still been some back and forth in the court if certain women should have, and I'm not talking about Ghislaine, should have to be held legally liable for some of the procuring of other girls that they did. So like I said, this relationship happened from 2011 to 2012. And you remember we talked about Kimbal got married to his first wife, Jen Lewin, back in 2001, and they divorced in 2010. So this relationship would have happened very shortly after his divorce from his first wife. And remember, Kimbal and his first wife had children together. Kimbal is a father who is willingly hanging around a man who was already on the registry and convicted and spent time in prison for literally a child. I can't say definitively who this woman was. I have my theories, but it's technically speculation. I'm not gonna say it. If you know, you know. But one thing that is well documented is that the day before Elon Musk went to visit Jeffrey Epstein in his home with his wife at the time, Tallulah Riley, to allegedly pitch a book idea that Tallulah had, the day before that, Kimbal Musk invited Jeffrey Epstein to his 40th birthday party in New York City. And Kimbal Musk's birthday, his 40th birthday, was in 2012. So we are years after Jeffrey had already been on the registry. Kimbal Musk thinks that that's a guest that he wants at his birthday party. Epstein did not attend this birthday party, but he did send some members of his entourage, some of the very young women in their early 20s. Later in 2012, it has been reported that Elon Musk and Kimbal allegedly arranged a private tour of SpaceX in California for Jeffrey to view. Since more light has been shed on Jeffrey potentially privately touring SpaceX, Elon Musk has denied the tour happened in its entirety. But it does not end there. There's still more to the relationship between Epstein, Elon, and Kimbal. So in 2014, Elon Musk was pictured in a photo with longtime partner of Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, at an Oscars after party. When this photo began circulating the internet, Elon told the world that Ghislaine had photobombed him, which to me personally sounds like one of the most absolutely ridiculous things that I've ever heard in my life. Elon then went on to criticize Vanity Fair, who was hosting the Oscars after party in 2014, for even inviting Ghislaine Maxwell, which is of course fair, but coming from Elon Musk, absolutely not, because we know at this time he was associated with Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine's longtime partner, and literally spent time in his home. Like, what are we even talking about? There have actually been a lot of reporters and venue workers who were there that night who observed Elon Musk and Ghislaine Maxwell conversing with one another at this after party. One reporter who was present at this event allegedly overheard Ghislaine and Elon having a conversation in which Ghislaine asked Elon if it was possible to permanently delete information about yourself from the internet. The two then allegedly were joking about the possibility of just destroying the internet as a whole. Another venue worker also allegedly overheard Ghislaine and Elon discussing the theory that reality is simply a simulation. What's so funny to me is this was like 6 years before Ghislaine Maxwell would be arrested. If this alleged conversation did happen, that is insane that she was trying to get information about herself deleted from the internet. Like she really thought that she was gonna slither her way out of what she was involved in. Before Epstein was arrested, he had loose lips when it came to discussing his relationship with Elon Musk and Tesla to certain New York Times reporters. Because if there's one thing that we all should know about Jeffrey Epstein, which is why so many people were shocked to hear that he had supposedly taken his own life, Jeffrey Epstein adored himself. He loved himself. He was constantly bragging to anyone who would listen about his accomplishments, his friends, his connections, his business ventures, his political connections. Like, he loved to brag. And these loose lips would get Elon Musk into a little bit of trouble. Epstein was bragging to a New York Times reporter before he was arrested about how he was assisting Elon Musk in securing a deal to take Tesla private through Jeffrey being a middleman with the Saudi Arabian government to try to secure funding for Elon Musk to take Tesla private. Probably remember, around this time, Elon Musk tweeted out a catastrophic tweet that would become a massive problem for him, stating that he was going to be taking Tesla private and he had the funding secured. His reasons for doing this is literally, in my opinion, Elon likes to be able to control his companies. He does not like to have to answer to anyone. SpaceX is a private company. He does not like to have to answer to people. We remember just a few weeks ago, a podcast clip aired of Elon Musk and his son X, and X, thinking he was making a little bit of a jokey joke, got up on the podcast mic and said something along the lines of, when you're involved in SpaceX, we can quietly just do whatever we want.
SpaceX and quietly just do whatever we want.
Elon is also not afraid to play games with the stock market. He is not afraid to screw over investors, just not afraid to do that, as long as it serves him. But Epstein, before he was arrested, very shortly before he was arrested, was bragging to a New York Times reporter about how he was third party negotiating this deal between Elon Musk and the Saudi Arabian government to take Tesla private. Not long after this, Elon Musk revealed that he had had a conversation with the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund to finalize the securing of the funds to take Tesla private. But what a coincidence! Like, isn't that timing a little weird between Elon Musk tweeting that, Jeffrey Epstein bragging to the reporter that he was the middleman negotiating that, and that shouldn't be surprising to anyone. But you'll remember, if you followed the Jeffrey Epstein case, when his homes were raided, there was a lot of different passports found. Jeffrey Epstein had a lot of financial connections to Saudi Arabia, so it would make sense, you know, hypothetically, of course, hypothetically, that Jeffrey Epstein was helping out Elon to secure this funding. Just find it very coincidental that in this very, very, very narrow time frame, Jeffrey Epstein is bragging to the New York Times reporter about helping Elon Musk secure this funding through the Saudi Arabian government. And then Elon Musk tweeting out that he had funding secured to take Tesla private, and then later admitting that the funding that was going to be secured was a deal through the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund. And then Jeffrey Epstein is arrested. Then the SEC sues Elon Musk, and it comes out that the funding was indeed not secured. The deal did not go through. That just seems like such a crazy coincidence to me. But anyway, the SEC sued Elon Musk for fraud and for misleading his investors, because since the funding was not secured, technically that tweet that he tweeted out in 2018 was a lie. The SEC also demanded that Elon Musk be barred from holding the position of officer or director of any public company like Tesla. Ultimately, the courts did not find Elon Musk guilty of fraud, but they did find him responsible for some damages to his investors, and he was allowed to maintain his position of CEO of Tesla. Even though Elon Musk pretty much got away with a slap on the wrist, he still went on to call the United States Security Exchange Committee unlawful for bringing this case against him. I'm sure the SEC and Elon Musk are going to have a beautiful working relationship as soon as he enters the White House. So I believe that 2018 was the beginning of the undoing of Elon Musk, at least from the public perception. His whole facade began to crumble after 2018, and his tweets really just began to catch up with him. And we're going to get more into Elon's undoing on Twitter, and we're even going to get into some of the most horrible things that Elon Musk has tweeted out on social media. Let me just quickly close out this entire Epstein section of the deep dive. So one thing that I have observed Elon Musk saying continuously while he has been on the campaign trail with Donald Trump is that if Donald Trump becomes president, he will release the Epstein files, and that is why so many people do not want him to be president.
Between Diddy and Epstein, there's probably several thousand hours of footage here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird that the people on those videos are lecturing the rest of us about our moral failings, isn't it?
Yeah, it's weird.
What is that?
Well, I mean, part of how they deflect attention from themselves is by criticizing the morals of others.
Yes.
It's sort of like a preemptive moral strike. Those who are saying Trump is a threat to democracy are themselves actually the threat to democracy.
It feels like we're getting to a place where the rest of us know too much. Like, what happens next now that we know all this? The kidnapper's shown us his face. Like, what happens?
Well, I think if Trump wins, we can do some house cleaning and shed light on things. I think part of why Kimbal is getting so much support, if Trump wins, that Epstein client list is going to become public.
Yes.
And some of those billionaires behind Kamala are terrified of that outcome.
Yeah. Do you think Reid Hoffman's uncomfortable?
Yes, and Gates.
And Gates.
Yeah.
It has been a repeated thing that has been said over and over and over by Elon Musk, even though Trump has said that he will not be releasing them, of course. Listen to me. This is a lie. What Elon is saying and what Elon has said is a complete lie. He has no motivation nor any desire to have those documents unsealed. And this is one of those lies that is so incredibly clockable. Like, Elon Musk and the PayPal Mafia have so many connections to Jeffrey Epstein. Like, so many. Elon Musk came up into the venture capitalist world, into the tech world, with some of Jeffrey Epstein's closest allies and closest associates. Elon Musk's brother dated Jeffrey Epstein's ex-girlfriend. No one who has flown as close to the radioactive hemisphere that is the creature Jeffrey Epstein would ever want the documents surrounding his activities, his associates, his ongoings, his emails to the public. In fact, Elon Musk has motive to keep those documents sealed. That rhetoric that we're going to release the Epstein files, we're draining the swamp, we're getting all of these bad guys out of here, it is literally just an attempt to pander to your relatability or to pander to the audiences of the podcast bros who seem to have this insane obsession with Jeffrey Epstein, but fail to make any kind of associations with the people he was closest to. Elon Musk is those elites who we want to expose, right? And he is trying to play in our faces as if he is going to be this soldier of truth, going to expose all these big people, when in reality, it's just insanely and disgustingly manipulative, and he does it with such ease. In 2023, the United States Virgin Islands subpoenaed Elon Musk during an ongoing lawsuit that U.S. Virgin Islands had against the bank JP Morgan. U.S. Virgin Islands was demanding that Elon Musk release all communications and emails that he had with Jeffrey Epstein after it came to light that Jeffrey Epstein may have been the referral for Elon Musk to become a client of JP Morgan Bank. I am not aware of the outcome of the findings of this lawsuit. I imagine it is still ongoing. So hopefully by now you are starting to get a little bit of an idea of the background of both Kimbal and Elon, and just kind of like the little bit of the shady dark side that they have laying just beneath the surface. So now let's talk about their sister, Tosca Musk, before we get into more of the controversies surrounding Elon 2018 to present day. So as you probably remember from the first series of this Meet the Musks deep dive, that Tosca Musk, in the divorce of Errol and May Musk, Tosca stayed with her mother, and Elon and Kimbal would be basically raised by Errol Musk. Like we talked about, after Elon and Kimbal would relocate from South Africa to Canada, 6 months later, May and Tosca would follow them. Tosca would finish up her schooling in Canada and would go on to attend the University of British Columbia, where she would receive a degree in film studies in 1997. After graduating, Tosca really quickly found a lot of success in the film industry, and in 2001, Elon Musk helped her found Musk Entertainment. Tosca has produced a lot of movies for Hallmark and Lifetime. After getting her footing in the film industry, Tosca Musk would go on to co-found the streaming platform PassionFix. And PassionFix is most well known to create films out of romance novels. Throughout the years, I would say like the biggest criticism of Tosca Musk would be her doing her job to engage in like the Musk family propaganda that removes them from the wealth that they grew up in apartheid South Africa. Tosca and May probably lived much of a less privileged life than Elon and Kimbal. I think Tosca still pulls her weight in trying to maintain a certain image surrounding how the Musk family grew up. Tosca is the mother of twins who would be about 11 or 12 at this point, and she has shared that she has never really had a meaningful romantic relationship, so she did make the decision to conceive her children through IVF using a donor who she hand selected. And Tosca will often put her twins in her films as well. But overall, Tosca keeps herself and her children pretty much out of the spotlight. Intentional or not, Tosca Musk has successfully maintained a air of mysteriousness and privacy surrounding her name and her family and her life, unlike her brothers whose controversies are just much more glaring. It is now time for us to get into the timeline of Elon Musk's relationships and how his gaggle of children came to be. Okay. Why does he look like that? Okay, so in 2000, Elon Musk married his first wife, Justine Musk. The couple would welcome 6 children before ultimately calling it quits and divorcing in 2008. Sadly, Elon and Justine's firstborn child together, Nevada Musk, would pass away as an infant at just 10 weeks old due to a SIDS-related incident. Elon has publicly shared that when Nevada passed away, the baby was in his arms and he felt the baby's heart stop beating. According to Justine, she has a completely different recollection of the entire situation. According to Justine, Nevada had a SIDS-related incident and was placed on life support. After Nevada did not have any brain activity, she had to make the difficult decision to take her baby off of life support and allowed her baby to pass away in her arms. To allegedly misrepresent every postpartum mother's worst nightmare, to have the light of sympathy shown onto you for self-serving purposes is like beyond evil. Shortly after Nevada passed away, Elon and Justine would excitedly welcome twins Vivian and Griffin. You have probably seen Vivian on social media. She is absolutely hysterical. Horrifyingly, Elon Musk, a man who has factually experienced losing a child, will now flippantly say that his oldest daughter Vivian is no longer alive as she was unalived by the woke mind virus. And the woke mind virus that Elon speaks of is simply Vivian existing as a transgender girl and living in her identity.
I lost my son, essentially. So, you know, they call it naming for a reason.
Yeah,
All right, so the reason it's called naming is because your son is by the woke mind virus. So I vowed to destroy the woke mind virus after that.
Imagine having to go through like the absolute horrendous trauma of burying a child. Literally every parent's worst nightmare. Every single one of us. It is our worst nightmare. And then having the opportunity to have more children. And because you don't agree with their identity, they are unalive to you. Absolute insanity. Moving on, in 2006, Justine and Elon gave birth to triplets, Kai, Saxon, and Damien. Since divorcing, Justine has been very open about her experience being married to Elon Musk and then the experience of like co-parenting with Elon Musk when their children were still young. Justine has shared her truth, and it's very clear the majority of the reason that her marriage failed with Elon was because of Elon. And before we get into the reasons why Justine says their marriage did not work out, please keep in mind Justine gave birth to 6 children in a less than an 8-year time frame. So this woman was literally either pregnant or postpartum for their entire marriage. Justine has shared that Elon was very judgmental of her and would be very quick to criticize her appearance and was regularly pressuring her to dye her hair blonder than it naturally was. When Elon would bring Justine along with him to like donor events or dinner parties, he would urge her to behave like the other women that were in attendance. Just like wanted her to be like a trophy wife, a doll to stand there and look pretty, to be seen and not heard. Justine shared that really all she desired from her marriage with Elon was to be able to have like deep and heartfelt conversations, to be able to have like an intimate connection with one another instead of like a boss versus employee kind of relationship. Justine has also shared that Elon was not above name calling her when they would get into arguments, often calling her a moron, an idiot, or stupid, similar to kind of what we heard Elon Musk accuse Elon of behaving like as a high school student. So ultimately, Elon filed for divorce. And within 6 weeks of filing for divorce from Justine, he proposed to another woman. Elon met actress Tallulah Riley at a bar in London. The two really hit it off. They very quickly started a romance that led to a very quick engagement. Tallulah and Elon got married directly after his divorce from Justine was finalized in 2010. But just 2 years later, Elon would file for divorce from Tallulah. Directly after filing for divorce, he took to Twitter to say, "It was an amazing 4 years. I'll love you forever. You will make someone very happy someday." Filing for divorce and like sealing it with a tweet is some of the most F-boy behavior I've ever seen in my life. Directly after divorcing from Tallulah, Elon Musk reached out to a director who he was friendly with, who happened to be directing a movie that Amber Heard was in, and he asked him to arrange a dinner for him and Amber Heard. A dinner was set up for Amber and Elon, but Amber ultimately did not show up as she was in a relationship with Johnny Depp at this time, and Amber Heard standing Elon up kind of made things fizzle out between the two of them. There was kind of no more buzz about Amber Heard and Elon for a little bit. After Elon and Tallulah Riley had divorced in 2012, they got married again in 2013. But a year later, Elon Musk would file for divorce from Tallulah Riley again, but he would pull his divorce petition and halt divorce proceedings about 7 months in. Then in March 2016, after things had been okay for a little bit, Tallulah Riley filed for divorce from Elon Musk, and that divorce was finalized, and that was the end of the relationship for real. So no children were produced from the marriages of Tallulah and Elon. And this is where Amber Heard comes back into the picture. So during the highly propagandized defamation lawsuit between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, an entire conversation for another day. We are not getting into it. That was a mess. During that lawsuit, Johnny Depp accused Amber Heard of secretly dating Elon Musk beginning in 2015, a claim that Amber Heard denied. There was some home security stills shown in court that seemed to be Elon Musk going to Amber and Johnny's penthouse during the time that they were still legally married. So like the beginnings of their relationship is a little bit like muddy, uncertain, but we do know that in 2016, shortly after Tallulah had filed for divorce from Elon, Amber Heard would file for divorce from Johnny Depp. Within about like 8 weeks, maybe a little bit longer, of Amber Heard filing for divorce from Johnny Depp, rumors started circulating in different articles about a potential fling going on between Amber and Elon Musk. And in 2017, those rumors would be proven to be true when Elon and Amber made their relationship official. And at the time that they announced that they were in a very serious relationship, Amber had already met all of Elon's children and was becoming very comfortable within the Musk family. Then Amber and Elon would go on to be on again, off again through the beginning of 2018. Sources close to Amber have shared and made public that at some point in Amber and Elon's relationship, they retrieved and created and froze embryos to be able to possibly use later down the line in the relationship. And according to these sources close to Amber, after Amber and Elon officially called it quits in 2018, it was revealed that there was some kind of a legal battle that went on in which Elon was petitioning to have the embryos destroyed or just have Amber barred from using them. And we don't really know much more information about like these embryos and this legal battle other than what came from the sources close to Amber. There have been a lot of rumors since Amber Heard did become a mother in 2021 to a child who she conceived via surrogacy. And in the announcement post of her becoming a mother and stepping into motherhood, she shared that she had made the decision to become a mother 4 years prior, which would be like within the timeline that she was in a relationship with Elon Musk. So I think that's what made a lot of people speculate that the child that Amber had via surrogacy was one of the embryos that Elon and her had created. But There is absolutely no evidence to verify that Amber Heard's child is fathered by Elon Musk. All we know is about the possible existence of embryos and a legal battle that ensued to have Amber not be able to use them. But I think it's very obvious that Amber Heard has very intentionally not revealed who her child's father is and not wanted that information to be public. So that's that. 2 months after Amber and Elon ended things for good, Elon began flirting on Twitter publicly with the musician Grimes. And just a few days later, they popped out as a couple at the 2018 Met Gala. 2 years after they began dating, in May of 2020, the couple announced that their first child, X, was born. Elon was asked by the press what it was like being a father to a newborn again after not having a newborn for so long. And Elon basically explained that Grimes handled all of the duties when it came to parenting the baby, and he looked forward to getting closer to the child as he grew older. It just feels very medieval. For the next year or so, the details of where Grimes and Elon's relationship stood were very murky. It just appeared to be very on and off again. That is kind of a pattern that Elon is developing clearly. By 2021, the couple seemed to have quietly split, but also in 2021, the couple announced the arrival of their second child, a little girl, who they had via surrogate, and this baby was named Exa, and they refer to her as Y. Grimes tweeted out shortly after baby Y's arrival, her and Elon were no longer in a relationship, but they were best friends. Just a few weeks after Grimes and Elon welcomed baby Y, it was revealed that Elon was a father yet again. This time he and an executive in his company Neuralink, a woman named Siobhan Zillis, welcomed twins that were conceived via IVF. These twins were born less than a month apart from Grimes and Elon's baby Y's arrival. The public was a little bit shook by the back-to-back baby announcements, but Elon fully defended himself, saying that he was just trying to help the underpopulation crisis, as a low birth rate is the worst thing that could happen to society. That's the pronatalist ideology speaking. I think people found it very bizarre that Elon had Grimes secretly having a baby and then an executive in his company, like one of his employees, having twins all at the same time. In September of 2023, despite being broken up, Elon and Grimes revealed that they had given birth to a third child together, this time a little boy who they named Techno. The technocracy nods in the names that Elon selected with Grimes are extremely loud. Shortly after their third baby arrived, baby Techno, a bitter custody battle would begin between Elon and Grimes. Grimes was the one who revealed that this was going on. Grimes basically explained that the fear of going bankrupt while simply fighting for a court-ordered parenting plan was not helpful to her creativity at the time. That's why she had not been releasing any new music. I cannot imagine being in the kind of situation where your baby daddy has just a stupid amount of money and like never loses in court ever, and has the ability to just rip your heart and soul, your children away from you. Like, that is sickening. In June of 2024, Siobhan Zillis and Elon welcomed their third child together, and virtually no information about this child is known, which is fine. But in July of 2024, Grimes' mother would post onto social media accusing Elon Musk of withholding Grimes' and his children from their mother. Grimes and her mother had planned a trip to Canada to take baby X, baby Y, and baby Techno to visit Grimes' grandmother one last time before she passed away. Despite having the trip planned for quite some time, Grimes' mother explained that Elon Musk was withholding baby X, baby Y, and baby Techno's passports so that Grimes and her mother could not take the children to Canada to visit Grimes' grandmother one last time. Grimes' mother also mentioned that her daughter was desperately trying to track down her children, as Elon Musk had not allowed her to see them. She and her mother were regularly seeing baby X appear at events and parties and launches with Elon Musk, but the other two children were nowhere to be seen. Grimes' mother was basically demanding that Elon made Grimes aware of where these children were during the time that Grimes was supposed to be with her children. In November of 2024, Grimes revealed that at one point Elon Musk had withheld one of her children from her for 5 months. So every time that you see Elon Musk parading baby X around like he is this wonderful and involved father, I want you to remember that man is withholding a mother from being with her baby. Okay, so now you have a pretty good understanding of how all Elon's relationship and children came to be. So as we know, Elon Musk was moving really funky before 2018, but in 2018, the mask began to slip as Elon, for whatever reason, thought that everything that came to the forefront of his mind was a gift to humanity, and he was literally tweeting out everything that popped into his mind. It has ultimately proven to be his undoing. So we know about the 2018 fiasco that happened on Twitter involving Jeffrey Epstein, the Saudi government, and the SEC. And keeping in mind, in 2018, Elon Musk did not own Twitter. He did not own Twitter until 2022. But between 2018 and 2022, when he would purchase Twitter, Elon would absolutely throw a grenade into what was once a glowing reputation. But one of Elon's greatest mistakes that he has made with Twitter is he will take any personal grievance that he has going on onto social media. It is so unprofessional and so inappropriate. For example, Elon Musk in 2021 lashed out against the FAA for literally halting one of his rocket launches for safety concerns. And he went on to his social media and called them just this fundamentally flawed organization and just was not having it. The FAA was also not having it with Elon. Elon had been getting in trouble on multiple occasions through SpaceX for ignoring and not adhering to the safety warnings that the FAA was giving to SpaceX. The FAA was also pretty pissed off because SpaceX was launching prototypes into space that violated SpaceX's government-regulated launch license. Like, that's kind of a big deal. And after the FAA delayed one of his launches, that is what sent him into an absolute spiral. Are we really that devoid of all self-reflection? You kind of have to have at least an okay working relationship with the FAA if you want to launch things into space, right? Like, please. But honestly, his attack of the FAA was just embarrassing for him. But as we get further into this list of disastrous tweets that have been posted by Elon Musk, you will see that that is very mild compared to what we're going to get into. So Elon Musk considers himself a free speech absolutist, right? But of course, after Elon Musk purchased Twitter, we all saw that that was not true. As we can see how often Elon Musk will remove people's accounts who post any kind of a negative tweet or article surrounding himself or anyone he's associated with. And since buying Twitter, Elon Musk's apparent love of free speech has been his excuse for the massive rise of medical misinformation, hate speech, and Russian propaganda happening on X. What Elon Musk did to Twitter was turn it into the closest thing that is comparable to Russian state media. Constant propaganda and demonization of the LGBTQ community, of people of color, of different minorities, constant propaganda about this great replacement theory, constant propaganda about the Middle East, constantly twisting of the narrative and the truth to try to cover the asses of the higher ups. A platform where they can intentionally poison the truth to benefit themselves. And unfortunately, so many people believe every word that comes out of Elon Musk's mouth. Going back to this idea that Elon Musk has projected onto the black community and to people who were victims of Diddy for protecting Diddy as long as he was protected and for virtually letting him get away with his terrible behavior.
But the thing is that people in the music and entertainment industry had to know that Diddy was kids basically, and yet they still fed him kids. And where's the accountability?
There had to be rumors. There had to be. They
had to know.
Yeah.
They had to know.
Cat Williams is talking about it on...
Exactly.
Yeah, on that podcast.
But who's feeding him the kids,
Right. Yeah.
First of all, it's just a whole other conversation to make the black politicians, entertainers, or entertainers of other minorities the fall person for Diddy's crimes. But I think Elon really needs to look into the mirror and really, really consider what he has said publicly about P. Diddy and even Jeffrey Epstein. Because Elon Musk did not have a problem with Sean Combs, with Diddy, just a couple of years before he was arrested. In fact, Elon Musk was in business with Diddy. Sean Combs was a very large investor in the acquisition of Elon purchasing Twitter. He didn't have any problem with Diddy then. The same way he didn't seem to have any kind of a problem with Epstein and hanging out with someone who he knew was guilty and had been convicted of little girl. He is projecting when he does this. Every time he does it, he is projecting, and there is something that we do not know about his relationship between those two figures, the two of the most prolific of our generation that he just happened to be closely associated with, and then tries to put the blame of Diddy's actions on minorities, on black politicians. The hypocrisy is so glaring when it's all out in front of you, when you really realize that this man is not only a liar, a manipulator, but a narcissistic hypocrite, and that is just a dangerous combination. Anyways, after Elon purchased Twitter, he renamed it to X after holding the domain x.com for decades. You remember, PayPal was originally x.com. After buying Twitter in the wake of a global pandemic, Elon laid off the majority of Twitter's staff so that he could save money because he didn't want to have to pay people. The wealthiest man on the planet laid off the majority of Twitter's staff, people who had been working there for years, so that he could save a buck.
I think we're about 20% of the original size.
So 80% left.
Yes.
So
I mean, a lot of people voluntarily.
Sure, but it's 80% are gone from the day you took over.
That's correct. Yes.
So how do you run the company with only 20% of the staff?
It turns out you don't need all that many people to run Twitter. I mean, if you're not trying to run some sort of glorified activist organization and you're not care that much about censorship, then you can really let go of a lot of people, it turns out.
I had dinner with somebody who runs a big company recently who said, I'm really inspired by Elon. And I said, the free speech stuff? He goes, no, the firing the staff stuff.
Elon Musk literally took these people's jobs from them with a smile on his face. He was happy about it. Between Trump and Elon Musk, I literally do not think anyone knows what a good businessman is anymore. Literally. Because when someone asks what a good businessman is and they put a model in front of you that is like similar to what Trump and Elon have done, all you're trying to say is they're good at making money and they're good about hiding who they hurt to make money, okay? We need to really dissect certain terms that we throw around way too often, like someone being a good businessman when they're actually the definition of a crook, or someone being a genius when they actually have maybe 2 brain cells running around in there together. There's also something that I think is very major that is not talked about enough that happened after Elon Musk bought Twitter, and it is especially relevant because of Elon Musk's ties to literally the 2 biggest of our generation. Due to the majority of the trust and safety team being laid off from Twitter, the CSAM appearing on X, formerly Twitter, have risen at an extremely disturbing degree. Twitter was already a mess before Elon bought it. There was already a lot of inappropriate content that the trust and safety team had to work overtime to try to get under control. Then when you take away the entire trust and safety team so that you can save a buck and make yourself richer, there is an explosion of CSAM appearing on X. So clock this T. Elon Musk, former associate of Jeffrey Epstein, Elon Musk, who is actively in business with a man who is sitting in prison for running a massive operation that involved children. Elon Musk, who is currently living on the property of a man who a judge found guilty of SAing a woman. Elon Musk, a father himself, does not think that it is a top of the list issue to get images and videos of children being harmed off of the app that he owns, the same app where he wrongfully accused someone of being a PDF file. Like, what is that logic? Elon Musk has no problem having a narrative pushed on that app that the LGBT community and trans people are predators, right? All while he profits off of the loosened restrictions on X surrounding images and videos of children being. Got it. We're gonna end it on a nice note, talking about the shit show that is Adrian Dittman. Now, I know I'm not alone when I say there are many of us who have been waiting for the day when Elon Musk's fake accounts began to be exposed to the public. Recently, Elon, inside of Adrian's skin, got into a live space on X where he was basically defending Elon's position with the H-1B visa turmoil that was going on throughout the Magamite community. In this live space, the voice changer for Adrian Dittman slipped badly. And honestly, in my opinion, even with the voice changer, I think it still sounds like Elon.
Please don't go, Adrian. Let's get David Icke's response. David Icke, stay there. David.
Yeah, I mean, can we just get this right? Is this Elon Musk or not? Never mind the name. Is it Elon Musk or what?
Absolutely not. Nope. Absolutely not. I am definitely not Elon. 100% not.
You were talking to Elon Musk, okay. What would you say to him?
Well, if that was Elon Musk, this is ridiculous. This is the playground, for goodness sake.
It is definitely not.
Elon should remember that, like, this country gave him a lot of opportunities, and if he doesn't behave himself, like, we will put him in prison because he's clearly a fraud on many different dimensions.
You aren't going to put no one in prison other than yourself. You're a goofball. You're a goofball. Dude, I'm a professional chain ganker, and the fact that I'm still up here proves that I'm absolutely incredible at it.
Was kicked out
You
because
clearly haven't dealt with high-level bureaucracy ever in your life, have you?
Union practices, so the German
Is this like your
government didn't allow him
first
to do a
day?
lot of unions in Germany didn't allow him to operate his facility. They used environmental impact reports as a reason to not allow him to operate. I mean, we can go all day.
You know,
if
this
you want.
environmental impact report's all bullshit, right? Just proving it more than anyone.
By the way, we know that there's several federal grand juries going on against Elon as we speak on the self-driving car fraud that he did, which people on our freeways. So yeah, we can have a conversation about Elon.
So 100%, man. I think I understand what your position is. You just hate Elon, and you're just looking for an outlet to push
criminal, and I can't wait for him to go to jail. I don't.
He's not a criminal. He's a fucking idiot.
I've seen the files on Elon, as have a lot of people who are in here who've done intelligence work. We know that he's very close to the
Intelligence work? You're sounding very smooth-brained for that kind of level of work. Just saying, man.
We know it. It's not a secret. And by the way, increasingly we're doing analysis on people using voice modulation technology on X. So we know who...
You know how retarded you're going to sound when, like, one day who I am is going to come to the surface and you realize how wrong you are about all
we
this?
We already know who you are. Just to be very clear about
Who
this.
am I?
By the way,
Who am I?
Elon Musk.
Who am I?
And we know it full well because we've had your
This guy is so stupid.
Tesla paid for the chips, right?
Yeah.
And then
I think so, yeah.
I guess it's a question whether
their compute, and then somebody else's, then that company uses it. I'm pretty sure that company then reimburses Tesla for the usage of that compute. Or potentially there is even more to that, because you can say, hey, wait a minute, I'm actually storing these chips, I'm actually integrating them to a certain extent. We got talent working there, so now potentially the cost of running that compute, like it goes down, because now all of a sudden you have to pour another company's labor into this as well, and it benefits, say, Tesla as well, right? Because you have that same talent working for both companies effectively. So actually the cost goes down, which is the reason why you do it.
Yeah, but Grok ultimately needed those chips to train its first model and ultimately get the $24 billion valuation that it used to raise $6 billion. So, you know, what benefit did that give to Tesla? What benefit did that give to Tesla?
Again, did you not pay attention to the words that I've just said?
I can't really talk to you about the nature of inflammatory rhetoric if we're not able to dive into the political issues that are underlying all of the rhetoric itself. So it's hard.
No, we can definitely talk about rocket fuel in the sense, right? Your kind of rocket fuel is solid here, but it also is the wrong type of rocket fuel for the rocket that you want to run. It's actually an inferior version of that same rocket fuel that I'm using right now, which is actually also liquid.
Yeah, but I disagree that it's inferior. I think it's cheaper.
It's so freaking hilarious to go back and scroll through Adrian Dittman's page and just see all of the posts of him just absolutely fawning all over Elon, calling Elon all of these kinds of praises. That is not normal. Elon Musk was not a billionaire and like a celebrity got caught doing that. People would be saying, hey, maybe need to get some mental health help. Maybe need to get some help. Something's not right. But like you're telling me Elon is this free speech absolutist. We can't use our free speech on the free speech absolutist app to call you Adrian? Listen, friends, I know this was a lot of information. This is probably the longest deep dive I've ever done, but I did not want to leave out things that I felt were important and relevant that tied in to present day. This could have probably been another 10 parts if I were to cover every single detail, every wrong tweet that he's ever tweeted. It will be here all day. That's all I have for you guys for now. We will continue to keep our foot on the neck of Elon Musk now and forevermore. If you have made it to this part of the deep dive, wow, I could kiss the ground you walk on. I appreciate you so much, and I am so glad you are here with me to absorb all this information. And hopefully you feel that you have learned something from this and have become more enlightened to what this man's plans are. Because genuinely, friends, if you do not know your enemy, you will never be able to successfully defeat your enemy. And if you want to foresee the future, you must look into the past.